Should have plugged my phone in sometime today.
Here we go.
There it is.
I call to order the February 2020 meeting of the Lafayette Common Council. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance to our nation's flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Clinker?
You want to do
Oh, you want to do the roll
a
call?
roll call first? or-
Okay.
yeah.
Will the clerk conduct a roll call vote, please?
Heidi, Clinker,
Here?
Reynolds,
Here.
Campbell,
Here.
Brown,
Here.
Allersmeyer.
Here.
Williamson.
Here.
Downing.
Here.
Nargi. Quorum present.
Mr. Campbell?
I move the minutes be approved as communicated.
Second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Mr. Clinker?
Madam President, I wonder if we might take a moment now. We lost one of our colleagues from the county council this week. We heard the sad news that while on vacation, Brian Metzger passed away, so I wonder if we could take a moment of silence for Brian.
Good. Let's please have a moment of silence.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, presentation and disposal of claims.
There are none.
Presentation of petitions and communications.
There are none.
Reports of the city offices on file in the city clerk's office.
Fleet maintenance, monthly December. Renew department, monthly December. Waterworks department, monthly December. And police department, monthly December.
Those are all on file in the clerk's office and can be viewed during business hours. Okay, ordinances for second reading.
Ordinance 2020-01, an amendment to ordinance number 2010-11 establishing a local Greenbush Historic District in the city of Lafayette, Indiana.
Okay, Mr. Brown?
Madam President, I move that we hear and approve ordinance 2020-01.
Second. Okay.
Good evening. John Collier of the Economic Development Department here. You have before you two ordinances to amend the original Historic Preservation Commission ordinance to establish two new local historic districts in the city. Upon their final reading tonight, that would bring the total number of local historic districts in the city of Lafayette to 24, including our very first cemetery. The property owners of both proposed districts voluntarily initiated their petitions to the Historic Preservation Commission, and the Historic Preservation Commission unanimously supported those petitions at their December 2019 meeting. And the Historic Preservation Commission would appreciate your vote of support for both ordinances. So the first one is ordinance 2020-01 to establish the local Greenbush Historic District, the boundary of which is the Greenbush Cemetery. The legal description, the boundary map, and a handful of images are included in your packet for reference, and I ask for your support for this ordinance.
Okay, are there any questions or concerns about this ordinance from the council members? Any question or concerns from anyone in the audience? If not, will the clerk conduct a roll call vote on ordinance 2020-01?
Clinker,
Aye.
Reynolds,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Allersmeyer.
Aye.
Williamson.
Aye.
Downing.
Aye.
Ordinance passes 7-0.
Thank you. The second ordinance is 2020-02 to establish a local Perrin Cason Street Historic District on two adjacent properties at 1509.
Introduced to the floor.
Wait for a second. Okay.
I'm sorry.
I move that we hear and approve ordinance 2020-02 on second and final reading.
And I second.
Okay. now-
Sorry, I'm a little
That's
excited
okay.
about this. All right, so the second ordinance is for two adjacent properties at 1509 and 1521 Cason Street, bounded by Cason Street on the north, Tinkler Street on the west, and Ferry Street to the south. The legal description, the boundary maps, and a handful of images are provided, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have, and I ask for your support.
Okay, any questions from council members on this ordinance? Any from the audience? Okay, will the clerk conduct a roll call vote on 2020-02?
Clinker,
Aye.
Reynolds,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Allersmeyer.
Aye.
Williamson.
Aye.
Downing.
Aye.
Ordinance passes 7-0.
Thank you.
Okay, ordinances for first reading. Ordinance 2020-03.
An ordinance reestablishing the cumulative capital development fund.
Okay, Mr. Mr. Campbell?
Madam President, I move to hear this ordinance.
Second.
First and final reading.
Okay, and second. Mr. Mayor?
Madam President, ladies and gentlemen of the council, thank you for the opportunity tonight to present this ordinance. I do want to give you a little bit of background on this, so I do hope if you indulge me if this is not my quickest presentation that I've ever done, because I do think some background, and in a public meeting, it's important for us to discuss this and people to understand what's going on. So if you look at your ordinance, you'll see back in 1984, the CUMCAP Development Fund was first established. And it's set with a rate that the state allows you to set. Over time, that rate changes, and so you'll see that in 2002, that rate was reestablished, and as we're doing today, also 18 years later, we're looking to reestablish that rate also. So what happens as your assessed value goes up, the Department of Local Government Finance makes an administrative adjustment to actually lower that rate each year. So collectively, what that does is it stops you from ever really raising any additional money. That they change a little bit depending on their ruling and what your AV, but there's not much change. Now, if you go back 18 years and look at it, it's went down every year except 2. And those 2 years are when the inventory tax was phased out, and so they gave it a little bump back up because a lot of governmental units lost significant amounts of money when that inventory tax was phased out. So historically, what that does, that continues to drop. Now, the problem with that is, as you can imagine, is the net present value of money and inflation. So what that rate would generate at the particular year, the first year in particular, what that money would buy 18 years later is considerably less, right? When you look at inflation, when you look at the cost of materials, the purchasing power is just not the same. So when we look at what that CUMCAP Development Fund does, primarily purchase capital assets and in particular equipment. It can purchase things like trash trucks, our load-alls, our front-end loaders, equipment that we use in the parks for mowing, all those different types of things. There is no doubt that those things are costing us substantially more money than they were costing us 18 years ago. So by reestablishing this rate, we'll be able to raise the amount of those funds about $900,000 a year. So we'll go from about $600,000 to about $1.5 million. And when you look at inflation and when you look at the cost of everything we do, including, we plan to use this for those types of purchases, and also to help pave additional roads and put in additional curbs, because you can do it with that. Well, I had the city engineer look at it for me today, what the cost of repaving is and milling and the cubic cost of concrete and curbs and handicap ramps, and I'll tell you, it is considerably more than it was 18 years ago. And so it is important that we reestablish this rate, and then it will, like it has, it will actually continue to lower itself each year based on our AV. So right now, it's about, we're going to raise it to 0.05. It's at about 0.02 right now. I think at its lowest, it got to 0.18. So it's less than half of where it started in 2002. And so it's important, I think, that we do that. We're still one of the few communities that don't charge an additional fee for trash pickup, for leaves, limbs, large items, trash, recycling, just about everything you put out every week. And I think our citizens really enjoy that services, but there is equipment involved to perform those services, and this is a fund that can help with that. So I would ask your support in reestablishing that. The amount is relatively small. We know anytime we look at taxes, it's important to do that with a very close and watchful eye. And but I believe, we've waited 18 years. We actually started talking about this about 5 years ago, and we kept putting it off, trying to, put it off as long as we can, kind of like the water rate increase. We went 17 years without a water rate increase. But at some point, the cost of equipment and the cost of doing business and providing service goes up. In your packets that I passed out or that I sent to you by email earlier, just to give you again and again and to say this in a public meeting, if you look at the cost of what it might affect a homeowner in a range, the low end is $3.64 a year or 30 cents a month, and on the high end, it's $18.77 per year or $1.56 per month, approximately. There's lots of things that can affect that, like homestead credit, what school district you live in, all those things that you're all very aware of. But that gives you kind of a general idea. This is also not outside the property tax caps, so if some reason somebody is already paying the max of the 1%, 2%, or 3%, then they won't pay this, right? So it's fair. If you're already paying the max, this doesn't get tapped onto it, and if you're not, then you could, pay depending on what your AV is. So I think that's also good because it's contained within the property tax cap, so there's still no way anybody can pay more than 1%, 2%, or 3%, which is in our Constitution. So I've thought this through carefully, and I believe this is about as long as we can go without reestablishing the rate. And I think we need to do it not only for ourselves, but for the people that come after us, so the equipment people inherit is in good shape, and there's the means to continue those services. So I would appreciate your support on this, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
will we get to go another 18 years before we have to do this again?
I won't be here.
No,
So,
I mean for posterity.
yeah,
I mean,
you
will
know-
it last for them?
This will raise about $1.5 million. When you look at buying, front-end loaders, you look at Bobcats, you look at tri-axle trucks and snow equipment and salt boxes, and I don't know about the cost of asphalt. I mean, I know the cost of concrete's astronomical, right? Every time we put in a handicap ramp on a corner, if we mill and pave, then we got to make sure the handicap ramp, each one of those, and we should do it, don't get me wrong, but they're between $3,500 and $4,000 a piece. So you look at the cost of that, I don't know if somebody will make it another 18 years, but we'll make it as long as we can, and I'm sure whoever that is will do their best also, and at the appropriate time, they'll stand up here like I'm doing and saying, this is what we need to do. It's not always an easy decision, but they didn't hire us to make easy decisions, and this is what we need to do for the equipment to keep moving forward.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions from council members? Any questions from the audience? You can come on up to the podium and state your name and address.
My name's Mark Nuttiger. I live on 24th Street.
Okay.
I pay $800 property tax. Would that keep rising or would it be lower in property tax? Would my property tax go up every year or would it go just the same?
Mark, it could go up a little bit depending on what your AV is. I don't know what the AV of your house is, but if it's in a certain range, it might go up $3.64 a year, or 30 cents a month.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
If you get with me and show me what your AV is, or give me your tax bill, I'll help you figure it out. Okay.
Okay. Any other questions and concerns from the audience? Okay. Will the clerk conduct a roll call vote on ordinance 2020-03?
Clinker?
Aye.
Reynolds?
Aye.
Campbell?
Aye.
Brown?
Aye.
Allersmeyer?
Aye.
Williamson?
Aye.
Downing?
Aye.
Ordinance passes 7-0.
Okay, and we need to set a public hearing for this ordinance for March 2nd at 6:31. We have a motion,
So
Mr.
moved.
Campbell.
Second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next ordinance, ordinance 2020-04.
An ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance of Tippecanoe County, Indiana to rezone certain real estate from GB to PDRS-SR 38 East, just west of intersection with Haggerty Lane, Ironman Properties petitioner.
Okay, Mr. Brown?
Madam President, I move that we hear ordinance 2020-04.
Second.
Okay, great. And we have the petitioner speaking tonight.
Council members, thank you for the opportunity to present the project to you. My name is Joe Blake. I am a principal of Ironman Properties, the developer of the project. I wanted to take just a moment and tell you a little bit about the project and why we think it's a valuable project for the city. About 3 years ago, myself, my partner, started conversations with David Baith and others out at Ivy Tech, asking them the question, would it be helpful to you if there was something that a project, a property that could provide student housing for your students at Ivy Tech? Ivy Tech embraced the idea initially enthusiastically and have been great partners since then. And I wanted to tell you just a few reasons why Ivy Tech, their leadership believes this is important and how we think this will be a great collaboration. First of all, student recruitment for Ivy Tech is an important aspect of what they do. More and more Ivy Tech students are traditional students coming out of high school wanting more of a traditional college experience. And so especially here in Lafayette, where there is an opportunity for students to make the 2-year transition after 2 years at Ivy Tech over to Purdue. There are an awful lot of students that live outside of our 10-county region that are drawn here to Lafayette. And so the need for housing for these Ivy Tech students is apparent in that regard. And also the issue of student retention and graduations, that's a key success metric for Ivy Tech that's very important to them. They believe that the opportunity to have student housing or a project like this near their campus allows the students to have greater commitment and loyalty to the institution and therefore improve their retention efforts. We also believe that the housing will provide quality options for other young professionals on the east side of town who are perhaps involved with the Franciscan nursing program, other young professionals at the corporations on the east and south sides of town. And one final benefit that we believe comes along with this project is the opportunity for engagement with the new YMCA. And it's a natural fit to have these individuals living right next to the YMCA and being involved in the programs there, enjoying the benefits of the YMCA, but also being participants in the services, the community services provided through the YMCA. Just a great opportunity to have a group of young people. What we wanted to do is to build something that matters, not just to build an apartment community, but to build a community that is an asset to not only Ivy Tech, but also to that side of town. We started essentially with a blank sheet of paper, and we developed the project collaboratively with the Ivy Tech leadership as well as the city staff. And I just want to take a minute to thank Ivy Tech for their collaboration. Dave Baith, Steve Schreckengass, Jane Harper, and others at Ivy Tech have been great partners in this project. Also, the city staff have been fantastic as well. Dennis Carson, John Collier, Dave Griffey helping us with the development of the project, and as well as APC staff, Ryan O'Gara and Sally Fahey. So we would respectfully ask for your approval of this rezone for this project, Anvil 38 on State Road 38. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
What will the criteria be for occupancy?
By criteria,
In other words,
can anyone live there?
Right.
Sure. Yeah, we're trying to focus on the Ivy Tech student to provide a quality housing option for them, but it's certainly not restricted to Ivy Tech students. It's not anyone can live there.
It's market rate.
It's market rate,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah.
Are there discounts for student occupancy?
No. No, I think we would run into fair housing issues if we did that.
Yeah.
So it's not really a dorm, it's an apartment.
That's right. Yeah, so it would be like the traditional student housing that you're seeing developed on Purdue's campus these days. It's kitchens, bed-to-bath parity, that sort of thing.
You get all the parking situation straightened out? I mean, you got a lot of units and how much parking?
Yes, yeah, so actually that's an interesting question. What happened when we started this collaborative process, what was recognized by everyone, Ivy Tech, YMCA, city staff, was that there's plenty of asphalt on this side of town. And the last thing that we needed to do is just pave green space. And so there is an agreement between Ivy Tech and Ironman Properties to provide part of their parking to to accommodate these. And that really actually works really well. We have if I may, we have a property in Frankfort, Indiana, where we collaborate with the county in sharing parking, because typically our residents are there at a time when the county employees are not there. And so anytime that we can not put asphalt down, we think that's a win.
Will you meet the requirements for parking spaces by using Ivy Techs, or will you provide your own parking places?
Yeah, no, it's a combination of both. There's parking spaces on.
What will that ratio be?
Let me think off the top of my head. The ratio is like 1.1 spaces for every unit, is the way it works out.
And how many people will reside in each unit?
Well, there are studios, 1-bedrooms, 2-bedrooms, and a couple of 3-bedroom units. Yeah. And so it would be 1, 2, or 3 individuals. We also think that one of the things that we've tried to do is connect. We've worked with the city to try to connect the property through the trail system. And we think that there will be a number of traditional students who, of course, time will tell, but will not use, they'll use public transportation. They won't necessarily have a car there. And so we'll just kind of have to, so we don't know exactly what the demand for parking is going to be, but that's what the ratio is right now.
And the bus stops at Ivy Tech. And
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah, we offered actually, if you look at the original plans, we offered a bus stop. City Bus opted not to come through the property, but we certainly could accommodate that if they would like to.
Okay.
How many people will this handle, do you look, with the 3 types of rentals you're talking about?
Okay, so it's 309 units, and, boy, I don't have the plans right in front of me.
About 406 total.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor.
Steel trap.
He knows my business better than I know my business. Thank you.
I didn't see it in the report, but I'm just looking at the graphic. That's not, is that just the office, or is that retail down there in the?
No, it's just the office.
Just the office,
It's a
okay.
leasing office. Yep. Yeah, it is. There is no retail. It's.
That's what I thought, but with that big glass window, I wasn't sure.
Yeah. Yep.
One more question. Thank you, Mr. Blake, for going through the PDRS plan, because that is very nice that we work together
It's
to help
been,
plan the
I will
city.
just tell you, it's been very positive, and I will, I honestly, I went into it with a bit of trepidation, but the staff has been excellent, so, thank you.
And I wanted to ask, we always ask, I don't know, once a year or so, what the market occupancy rate is. Did you get that number when you plan this? Like, are we 80% full in Lafayette, 85% full? Is there a up-to-date number?
My
Occasionally.
partner's in the room. Mike, do you?
Really?
It's very high.
Yeah. That's a
Thank you.
great project. Thank you.
Okay, any other
If
questions?
you didn't hear that, that was 96%.
Yeah.
Questions from the council, questions from the audience? Okay, great.
I'd just like to say thank you to Mr. Blake and his team. This is a very, very positive development for our community, and Dennis and our staff have worked closely, and we don't want them paving asphalt over green space if we absolutely don't need to be doing that. And so I just want you, I've reviewed this closely, as you can tell, and I'm supportive of the project and would appreciate an affirmative vote for this reason.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Any other questions?
This was a unanimous vote at the area plan.
Unanimous voted area
Yes.
plan? Okay.
Great.
Okay. Will the clerk conduct a roll call vote on ordinance 2020-04?
Clinker?
Aye.
Reynolds?
Aye.
Campbell?
Aye.
Brown?
Aye.
Allersmeyer?
Aye.
Williamson?
Aye.
Downey?
Aye.
Ordinance passes 7-0.
Okay, ordinance 2020-05. Mrs. Williamson?
I move that we hear and approve ordinance 2020-05.
Second?
Okay. And Mr. Riley is going to speak to this.
Thank you. Good evening, Kevin Riley with Riley and Teeter and Schreier, representing the petitioner Valley Oaks Health. Tom Gilliam, the CEO for Valley Oaks, is here tonight as well, if you have any questions for him.
Has
Valley
this
Oaks.
been read into the record?
Yeah,
They
we got
just,
it.
yeah.
Okay, we're set. Go ahead.
Okay.
Oh, you didn't read it?
No, I don't think you did.
We're to
That's
the,
what I
we're
was,
we're
yeah.
trying to get this thing
I
done.
know.
Let her read it.
All right, let
okay?
me read into the
Read
record.
it.
Ordinance 2020-05, an ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance of Tippecanoe County, Indiana to rezone certain real estate from NB to MR-2111 Teal Road, Valley Oaks Health Incorporated petitioner.
Okay, now we're official. Yes. Sorry.
I feel like we should.
Go ahead.
Okay.
All right.
Again, Kevin Riley for the petitioner, Valley Oaks. We filed a petition to rezone this property at 2111 Teal from NB to MR, which is a medical zone. This property is the vacant lot across from the old Jeff High School football field. Used to house a PEFQ branch, and then I think it was also another bank prior to that. So it's that vacant lot there, kind of on the corner. Valley Oaks is under contract to purchase the property. The plan is to close on the purchase next week and then start development of the site later this spring or summer. The plan is to build a single-story facility, approximately 7,000 square feet in size. The rezone to MR will allow Valley Oaks to provide on-site skills training to its clients in areas needed to improve daily functioning, medication support, mood management, and independent living. The facility will be large enough to house up to 15 clients. Generally speaking, these clients will stay in the facility 6 to 12 months after they've received the services. The idea is that they will then be able to move out and live on their own. So it is not a permanent location for those clients. As they move out, then new clients will come in. The property, or the facility will be staffed by 7 Valley Oaks employees on a full-time basis. It's a 24/7, 365 days a year operation. Area plan staff recommended approval, and it was a unanimous vote in favor of approval at the area plan meeting last month. So happy to answer any questions you have and request your approval.
Or be vehicular access off 52 into this facility?
Off Teal, there is a curb cut off of Teal. Yes.
He was, actually, I have the second part of that question. That was the first part. Will you still be able to get through access from the back road? Because that is a tough curb cut
No.
there.
You mean the behind that leads into the
Yeah,
apartments
yeah,
behind?
behind.
No, there
No.
will not be access to that.
Because that is a tough in and out. I agree with Mr. Campbell.
And then it is on the bus line.
Okay.
You know if there are any plans to tie into the Career Center for learning opportunities for students since they're so close?
Tom, do you want to come up? I don't know the answer to that question. We'll see let Tom answer that.
I'm Tom Gilliam from Valley Oaks Health. I'm the CEO. Yes, we've had some initial conversations, but we wanted to wait till we had more definite plans. But we have been connected with the right people over there at the Career Center to help, because we want to start hiring people straight out of high school to help us with this. So this will give a good place for them to do some training.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions from the council? Questions from the audience? Okay, thank you, Mr. Riley. Will the clerk conduct a roll call vote for ordinance 2020-05?
Clinker?
Aye.
Reynolds?
Aye.
Campbell?
Aye.
Brown?
Aye.
Allersmeyer?
Aye.
Williamson?
Aye.
Downing?
Aye.
Ordinance passes 7-0.
Okay, ordinance 2020-06.
An ordinance regulating personal electric or powered vehicles.
Okay, Mr. Campbell?
I move for passage of ordinance 2020-6.
Second.
Okay.
And final reading.
Hi, Margie Deverall with the Economic Development Department. The mayor asked me after caucus last week if I could just give like a quick 5-minute rundown. You've got a copy of the ordinance. I'm sure you've read it word for word. So I thought I would give just a real brief background about scooters, if you don't already know.
The microphone down a little bit more so we can.
The pilot program that we just finished this year, it took place in 2019, and then the results of that pilot program. So if you remember, in early September 2018, Bird scooters were the first to arrive in Lafayette and West Lafayette, catching both of us unprepared. Within a few weeks, both cities began regular bi-monthly meetings to work on regulations and adopt them, with the intention of adopting language that was the same or very similar, making it easy for users and operators to be on both sides of the city with one set of rules. So a month later, in October of 2018, the city of Lafayette issued a cease and desist order temporarily ending Bird's operations here. West Lafayette was not able to do that, and so Bird continued operating without any rules and really focusing on the Purdue student market. So soon after the cease and desist order, Bird got a hold of us wanting to talk about an interim agreement. So with the support of city attorney and with city staff, we put together those interim agreements, which were basic rules, guidelines, and conditions to govern the scooter operation until we adopted our regular ordinance. And during that time, the city of Lafayette and West Lafayette continued to work on our ordinance. So still in 2018, by late November, we had 2 more scooter companies contact us wondering if they could have permission to operate in Lafayette. With that in mind, and because many other communities do have pilot programs just to test out their rules and see what it's like to have scooters in town, we decided to do that. And so with that set of interim agreements and with now 3 scooter companies wanting to operate here, we established a pilot program and launched that at the end of 2018 to really begin in earnest in 2019. So at that point, West Lafayette had not yet adopted their regulations and opted not to be part of that pilot program, but to move ahead and adopt their regulations in early 2019. So that's kind of the background. Until we get to the pilot program, the goals that we had, we wanted to, test our temporary agreement, determine if the draft regulations that we had written together with West Lafayette and that they later adopted, if there was anything about those that we needed to change. We wanted to observe use and operations of scooters throughout the city, again, to determine if there was anything additional that we needed to have in those regulations, and to test the appropriate number of scooters in our community. We decided very early on we didn't want any more than 50 downtown because of our narrow sidewalks. We didn't think it was that safe. So we started ahead. As I said, we had 3 different companies interested. Before we even got out of the gate, one of the companies dropped out. We had Spin operate, if you remember the orange scooters this past spring and summer. And we had the 3rd company, Gotcha, decided that they could not deploy in 2019 and that they would wait until spring after we adopted our ordinance. And that was due in large part to not having enough units. So they were already in other markets and didn't feel like they could pull away from those in order to set up here. So we operated with just one. And because of that, we did get limited data from the pilot program. It was a little disappointing, with only one company. And the operator was never allowed to reach full capacity in Lafayette because they were splitting the units that they had between the 2 cities. But together with local staff, because that's a requirement in the ordinance as well, you probably read that, there has to be accountability, there has to be a way for people to, if they have problems, to reach someone 24 hours, but we also had to have local staff. And that really went quite well. Their local staff, we tested and approved parking locations in the downtown. We had very few incidences, and with one phone call, it was taken care of. I mean, like within an hour or two, taken care of. Let's see. So what we ended up with, thankfully, was establishing a very cooperative working relationship with these companies, which was a nice change of pace considering when Bird came, it was very adversarial. So, again, we had very few incidences. We tested the number of scooters downtown, and that seemed to work well. So aside from maybe 2 or 3 phrases in the ordinance, what you are looking at is the same as what was adopted in the city of West Lafayette. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
What type of control will the city council have over this administrative officer?
Not much. I mean, it's kind of like the city engineer as the administrative officer for ordinance enforcement and things like that. He reports to me. Obviously, I work with all of you from a day-to-day standpoint. We won't have probably that much contact, but certainly know that if anything in this ordinance does not work well, we will make the changes and bring it back to the council to amend it. Or if you receive complaints from folks and things aren't working well, please bring it to our attention on a day-to-day basis. We'll work with the companies and everybody to get it straightened out. If we can't, we'll amend the ordinance. But I mean, it's kind of like we are now with department heads for people that are assigned those duties. We'll bring it to the council. If things don't go well, if they do, we'll give you a good report that it went well.
So you want the complaints directed to you or to the city council?
Margie.
I'm changing my name and my phone number. But no, I mean, if you get complaints from anyone, you can call our office, you can call me or email me. Yeah.
That's to people that bring them in. What do you, some of these same rules apply to the people that may own their own?
In terms of parking, yes. I mean, you can't park in the middle of a sidewalk, you can't block doorways. So, I mean, the parking is really common sense, but that's not everybody who uses them uses common sense.
I just noticed here recently that I've seen a few individuals that now own their own. I thought they belonged to somebody. And
right. Whether you rent scooters or own scooters, you cannot ride them on the sidewalks downtown. I mean, so those rules apply across the board.
Okay,
right.
All right.
I believe you said the other night the cost of entry was $1,000 plus $1 a scooter or something?
Yeah.
Will that be enough to cover the cost of the city staff that will be required to take care of that? Will it be close to, you can squeeze this in with your.
Yeah.
Okay, so, okay, so we'll be covered as far as, yeah. Won't become overwhelming for one person. Hopefully, we'll have enough that if it becomes overwhelming, that we'll be able to share.
We hope it won't.
Yeah.
And also, if for some reason we have to pick them up and store them or something goes wrong, we'll
Right.
cover those costs in the street department involved.
That's what I'm getting.
I'm optimistic. The pilot went pretty good. I honestly didn't get that many complaints and calls from them. And like I said, after we got the relationship going, they were actually pretty responsive about getting back with us and trying to get things straightened out. So we're going to go into it optimistically and see what happens.
Yeah, and one thing I can say, again, I can't say enough things about the Spin local staff working with us, because they started out downtown. That's about the only place scooters were. They were seeing that scooters were ending up clear out on Veterans Memorial Parkway, so people were picking them up downtown and going that far. So clearly, we needed more, and we needed them, throughout the community. And when it came time to figure out where those scooters would be placed, one recommendation was talk to City Bus, because some of these people are going to ride a bus to a point, get off, and if there are scooters there by the bus stop, there's your last mile, which is what they talk about a lot in scooters. It's that first and last mile. And City Bus was happy that they asked their opinion, and so they worked together on some locations like that. So I would hope that we would continue with that good working relationship that we saw this year. Again, it was only with Spin, but all the folks that we've talked to have, they just have a different approach than Bird did coming in. So.
Will they be sharing the bike lanes?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they can go as fast as a bike.
Any other questions from council? Any questions from the audience concerning this ordinance? Okay, if none, let's, clerk will conduct a roll call vote on ordinance 2020-06.
Clinker?
Aye.
Reynolds?
Aye.
Campbell?
Aye.
Brown?
Aye.
Ollersmeyer?
Aye.
Williamson?
Aye.
Downing?
Aye.
Ordinance passes 7-0.
Okay, ordinance 2020-07.
An ordinance authorizing the City of Lafayette to issue its taxable economic development subordinate revenue bonds, Nova Tower Project, and authorizing and approving other actions in connection therewith.
Mr. Clinker
I move we hear 2020-07.
and Mr. Brown.
Second.
Okay. Mr.
Thank you,
Mayor.
Madam President, ladies and gentlemen of the council. Just to regress just a minute, you have my word that if there's a problem with the scooters, we will take care of it and keep you notified. I don't want my phone ringing off the wall either, but we watched it close. And I used to, at night, I'd meet the guys out there sometimes that were picking them up from the company, and I'd ask them, how did it go? Where did we see problems at? And I'd talk to them to try to, so I think we've got a good, and if something doesn't go well, we will definitely address it and bring it back to the council. Before you have the Nova Tower project, we are very excited about this. As you know, downtown development is a priority for us, and it's also a great challenge developing downtown. There are water lines, sewer lines, overhead poles, alleys, you name it, that make downtown development sometimes difficult. And Dennis and I and his staff will tell you, and this project's probably about in that realm, that sometimes it takes almost 3 years to get to bringing something before the council, to get everything worked out, to make all the numbers work, make all the utilities work. Fortunately, this one is going to avoid the Pearl River Fort. That's why the design's a little unique on the front, and it comes out, so they'll miss that. But we have been working on this for a very long time. 4th Street corridor is something that's important to us, to get that redeveloped and to also build that gateway into downtown. I just gave a talk today to a group of Purdue retirees and just got about Columbian Park and about downtown both, just how excited people are about what we're doing and what the downtown has become. And so we're very excited about that. Dennis and his team has been working with this group for a long time, and I think we've covered everything we can humanly cover to make sure this works out and for the city to be a partner on this. And what we're going to do first is I'm going to bring up Scott Frizzell, who is with Krieg DeVault. He'll talk to you a little about the legal aspect of the bond. It's very similar to what we've done next door and some of our other projects, but we'll go through that. And then I'll have Greg Blazano come up from Baker Tilly to talk about the financial piece a little bit, and then we'll have Kevin Riley come up as the owner's rep. And I've told them all to keep the times reasonable, but to make sure they give you the information, and then if you have any specific questions, for them to be ready to answer those. So with that, I'll call up Scott from Krieg DeVault.
Good evening, Council. My name is Scott Frizzell, and Ordinance 2020-07 is for the issuance of taxable economic development subordinate revenue bonds to support the financing of a portion of the costs associated with the development of this mixed-use residential and office/retail space at the Nova Tower project. The bonds will be issued in an amount not to exceed $1.9 million, with interest rate not to exceed 6.5, and the term will not exceed 16 years. I think it's important to note that these economic development bonds and the interest on these bonds will not constitute a debt or charge against the general credit or taxing power of the city, but will be special limited obligations of the city payable solely from the TIF revenues. And the company has agreed to pay any deficiency payments, and that will be hashed out in the taxpayer agreement between the company and the Redevelopment Commission. Prior to tonight's meeting, the Lafayette Economic Development Commission conducted a public hearing and adopted its resolution finding that the financing of a portion of the Nova Tower project complies with the purposes of Indiana law, and that such financing will be of benefit to the health and general welfare of the city. And at that meeting, they also reviewed a draft of the ordinance that's before you this evening, as well as copies of the draft financing documents, which includes the financing agreement between the city and Nova Tower and the trust indenture between the city and the trustee that will be selected. The financing documents are not finalized, and the bond ordinance authorizes the mayor and the controller to continue to amend those documents until closing to add in final terms that are negotiated and finalized at that time after the second reading and approval of this ordinance.
Will we have that information?
You'll likely have the total bond amount, which Baker Tilly is here this evening, and they will discuss the financials for it. I think the last numbers I saw were about 1.634 million for the project, but you should have all of those terms. There might just be minor other blanks that need to be filled in, but you should have the trustee information and all of that by closing, or by the second reading on March 2nd.
Thank you.
At this time, I'll entertain any questions you have.
That's great.
Any questions of the council? Any questions of the audience for Scott? Okay, before we have the audience, okay.
Greg Lozano come up from Baker Tilly to discuss the financial piece of this. And everybody has their package that has how many units in it, how much they're
Right,
valued.
right. Mhm.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, my name is Greg Balsano with Baker Tilly Municipal Advisors. In front of you, you do have a packet, about a 6-page document that shows the financings of the Nova Tower project that I will just kind of run through very briefly. As was mentioned, we're kind of structuring this bond issue around 75% of the estimated tax increment this project should generate, and it's about 15-year bond issue. We're expecting to issue early in 2021, which is what you'll see in this document. If you look on page 2 of your analysis, it shows what the expected 75% of tax increment would generate. You can see that we estimate that to be just over $236,000 for the full increment, and 75% of that being just over $177,000 annually. Page 3 kind of shows the sources and uses of the bond issue briefly. The company would get about $1.465 million. That's for the new infrastructure for the project. That's after reducing placement fees and bond issuance costs and contingencies with that bond. We will continue to look through various options of selling. As I said, we were planning to close on these bonds beginning of 2021. So we'll continue to evaluate the market throughout this next year. These are just estimated interest rates that you'll see on page 4. As you can see, that estimated annual payment is $177,000, which was the 75% of tax increment. So that's what the bond payment will be per year, and we estimate that that project will cover those. Please note that in the first 2 years while this project is under construction, the existing tax increment will be used to pay those first 2 amounts in the years while this project's being completed. Very similar to the Star Crossing project, as the mayor mentioned. And then the last few pages kind of show the coverage, as showing that the TIF has plenty of coverage in terms of with its pledges for other bond issues. Page 5 looks at that. As you can see, coverage ranges anywhere from about 400% up to the high 600s percent coverage with your other outstanding obligations payable from this TIF area. I'd be happy to answer any questions you guys have.
What's the length of the bonds, did you say?
Looking at about 15 years.
15 years?
Yes, sir.
Okay, any other questions from council members? Okay, Kevin?
Thank you.
Good evening again, Kevin Riley with Riley and Teeter and Schreier. Wanted to mention that Lawrence Lee with the developer, part of the developer group, is here as well tonight. As was mentioned earlier, this is going to be a mixed-use development on South 4th Street near the brownstones that are being developed in that location. Currently, the site is a surface parking lot, so I think this is a real improvement to that location. There will be 6,000 square feet of retail on the bottom floor. That is already been leased out to Anytime Fitness on a 10-year triple net lease. There will be 76 apartment units, 140 total beds, a mix of studio, 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms, 84 parking spaces in the structured parking arrangement. There are a few other details in the packet that you have, but that's kind of what I wanted to hit tonight. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Council members, any questions?
Full occupancy, how many people will be residing in it?
140 beds.
140 beds?
140.
And you'll have, how many parking spaces?
84.
84?
84.
A little slim.
I think with the downtown, though, I mean, our,
That's about
we
the same
think.
ratio
Yep.
we did to the folks next door in the Mart downtown. Younger generation uses public transportation and bikes and walks, and we're looking out about that ratio, and that we don't want to create parking spaces and asphalt that people don't end up using, so we start work so far.
Okay, any questions from the council? Has everybody made their presentation now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so are any questions from the audience concerning this ordinance? Okay, hearing none, will the clerk conduct a roll call vote for 2020-07?
Clinker?
Aye.
Reynolds?
Aye.
Campbell?
Aye.
Brown?
Aye.
Allersmeyer?
Aye.
Williamson?
Aye.
Downing?
Aye.
Ordinance passes 7-0.
Now we have one resolution, Resolution 2020-04.
A resolution of the Lafayette Common Council approving and amending the declaratory resolution and the plan of redevelopment commission and the order of the Tippecanoe County Area Plan Commission.
Okay, Mrs. Alsmeyer?
Madam President, I move we hear and approve Resolution 2020-04.
Second.
Okay.
Good evening, Dennis Carson, Economic Development Director. This resolution is part of the statutory process for this project and this bond that we're issuing for the Nova Tower. One of the steps was for the Redevelopment Commission to amend their economic development plan to include the project and then forward that on to the Area Plan Commission to make sure that it conformed with the countywide comprehensive plan. That has taken place, and that was approved unanimously through the Area Plan Commission, and now you have this resolution for your approval as well. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the council? For Dennis?
We will not be able to approve this until you have gone through and met with another body, I think. Is that what you said?
This has already been approved.
No, this was
This is already.
already approved through the Area Plan Commission and also through the Redevelopment
Mentioned
Commission as
another
well,
body, so
too.
that you're going to meet with, I think.
Right, it's again, approved through the Redevelopment Commission and the Area Plan Commission, and then there will be another step after this to approve the bond and the project with the Redevelopment Commission. So there's several statutory steps with this bond and the project and its approval.
Okay, any other questions from council? Questions from the audience? Seeing none, will the clerk conduct a roll call vote on Resolution 2020-04?
Clinker?
Aye.
Reynolds?
Aye.
Campbell?
Aye.
Brown?
Aye.
Allersmeyer?
Aye.
Williamson?
Aye.
Downing?
Aye.
Resolution passes 7-0.
Okay, reports of standing committees. Reports of special committees. Reports by the mayor.
Thank you for everybody's support tonight, and as Dennis said, I appreciate everybody's involvement. There really are, on a bond like this, Redevelopment Commission, the Economic Development Commission, the City Council, and the Area Plan Commission. So there are a lot of checks and balances, as there should be on projects like this, and there's just a lot of steps, and we appreciate it. So, all right, well, Mr. Campbell, you're going to be happy. This is my shortest state of the city in the history of being the mayor. I finally learned. There is a little video you have to watch when it's over, but it's short.
Do we have time for the Sergeant of Arms to, ladies and gentlemen?
Oh, yeah, I don't think we need to do that.
Like the State of the Union.
All right. Madam President, ladies and gentlemen of the council, good evening. I'm honored to present to you my 2020 State of the City Address. I would like to thank the City Council for their support in the past and moving into the future. Through your efforts, we have been able to move Lafayette forward. In addition, I would like to thank all of our citizens, department heads, and team members who collectively work together to make this a great community. From a financial standpoint, we finished the year with about $5.5 million in a rainy day fund. Our accounts are in balance, and we continually evaluate our financial position and work to use our tax dollars to the highest and best value to our citizens. We continue our unwavering commitment to public safety. Our police and fire departments are among the best in the nation. We continue to invest in our people, training, equipment, and community outreach to ensure we provide the best service possible to our citizens. Our fire department has an ISO rating of 2, which ranks it highest and makes it one of the highest ranked department in the nation and has significantly increased its training. In 2015, there were 10,346 hours of training at the fire department. In 2019, there were 22,913 hours of training, which is a 121% increase in the last 4 years. Our police department has fully implemented its initiatives and continues to evaluate its strategy to keep our community safe. Part 1 crimes are down for the 3rd year in a row. In 2015, there were 3,803 Part 1 crimes that we report to the FBI. In 2019, that number was 2,749, which is down 1,054 since we announced our initiatives. Our community continues to grow, and we have a strong focus on quality of life, from our quality parks and recreational opportunities to our trail system, to new entertainment and living options, to streetscape, to the multi-use baseball stadium. We continue to work to create a community and an economic development environment that promotes a quality, sustainable growth and creates hope and new opportunity for all. We work closely with our social service organizations, our schools, and our faith-based partners to help ensure, to the best of our ability, no one gets left behind. We're proud of Renew, Waterworks, and stormwater infrastructure. We've been progressive and steadfast in improving and growing our infrastructure for now and in the future. We pride ourselves on our city services, our commitment to our neighborhoods, downtown, our business, industry, and labor partners. We will continue to work collaboratively with all our government partners to maximize opportunities and help create the economy of the future that opens new doors. 2019 was a successful year, and we go into 2020 with enthusiasm. We will discuss and work on a climate change resolution. Significant changes are coming for the Lafayette Theater. The Crosser Sports Complex will open soon, and Penguins will be in Columbian Park, along with the return of the carousel. I conclude by calling everyone to action, to be a part of this journey, to be answers to problems, to help lift people up, become a mentor, help someone facing addiction or mental health challenges, and enjoy some fun things. Come downtown, go to a park, see a performance at the Long Center or Lafayette Theater. There's so much to see and do. Get out and explore your community. Participate, make a difference. And Greater Lafayette will be even a better place because you got involved. May God continue to bless our community, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you. I need everybody to come out here. Instead of listening to me ramble on, we're going to show you about a 5-minute video of some cool things that are taking place. Did I move this, or is it okay?
Look at this. Yeah, I think so. Ready when you are.
Yeah. You ready?
Those are the types of penguins that we'll be getting. They're African black-footed penguins. Carousel will open in July. Our first show at the Lafayette Theater after we owns it, sold out. Next phase is a streetscape that we just opened the bids on. This is the map for how we'll move the Pearl River Sewer to open up new development opportunities downtown. Building next door. That's what the tank looked like after we were done. It was covered up. That's the exhaust vents to look like pieces of public art. And that's the building. And that's the dirt that we dug out of the baseball field that's going to become a new sledding hill. Reservoir. We're coming along, making great progress. And on top of that, we're going to build a field for handicapped kids. Playground going in at McAllister. An RFP is going out this year to build the new police station. An RFP is going out this year to build the next section of Park East Boulevard. There's what you helped approve tonight. The city's a financial partner in the engagement center. Again, what you helped approve tonight. Recovery Cafe at Bauer Center, helping people fighting addictions. So we will let you show. county went together and did about $3 million worth of improvements to Haggerty Lane. And that's the most updated picture of the new Drury Inn out on South Street. That's Grant's house. Go red for Ed down in Indianapolis. That was about 5 minutes, just kind of a touch of what's going on. It's easy to lose sight sometimes of how many positive things are actually taking place. Oh, sit down, hey, sit down, one more quick thing, yes. Yeah, one more quick thing, I'm sorry.
Are you done?
No, I want to show the quick, low, computer-generated video real quick.
Oh, let me shut this off then.
Yeah, it'll only last like a minute. That we just got this last week, because we picked out all the final colors for Loeb. So all the stuff you see here, these are the final colors. The brick, the awnings, the roof. This is the layout where the merchandise will be. This is it.
That's it. That's the color scheme.
Technology is amazing, isn't it? Yes. It's that 3D thing. I know, that is. He said that to me.
No, but we did pick the brown. You gotta pick the brown perfect. You want, how you want your dirt to look. Yeah. They've got different shades of brown.
Let's do it.
Yes, Mayor, you're right. We have lots of positive things happening here in Lafayette, and many things to be proud of, and thank you for your leadership and all your hard work to help these things happen.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, reports of councilmen. Any reports? Okay, now it's time for public comment. If anybody in the audience would like to speak, please come to the podium, say your name and address. You have 3 minutes, and please be respectful and courteous to everyone. Any public comment tonight? No, Mr. Clinker?
In the absence of Mr. Heidi, I move for adjournment.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we adjourn. Oh, you don't realize all the
Yeah, thank you. Good to meet you.
There's a lot.
Cindy, do you want this back? Lon's copy.